Yeah.
What are some big fishes that live in the lake up there?
Oh, the lake sturgeon.
The lake
They can
sturgeon,
get 8
yeah.
feet long and weigh 300 pounds.
And you actually had a sighting yourself of the Lake Champlain monster, you believe, right?
Yeah. That happened back in 1994.
Wow. What did you see exactly?
I saw the back and what I think was a flipper up in the air of what appeared to be a giant turtleish-like animal about 15 feet long. And it was a garbage bag color, a greenish black.
Wow.
So I assume, based on what I know about other sightings, that it was probably some kind of plesiosaurish creature, and that the neck and the head were under the water, and I was seeing it swim along on its side with the flippers stick up in the air. I mean,
yeah,
that's my interpretation of it. Okay,
that's
I
awesome.
just found the original article
Nice.
that the survivor wrote from 1962. And I'm trying to find his original description of the monster. Hang on. Let's see.
And this is going to be Edward Brian McCleary's account.
Yep. All right, let me see. Right next to Eric, the telephone pole-like figure broke water. I could see the long neck and 2 small eyes. The mouth opened, and it bent over. It dove on top of Eric, dragging him under. I screamed and began to swim past the ship. Let's see here. I believe he said the neck was about 7 feet long.
Uh-huh.
And as you look at his drawing, it has a almost turtleish looking head
Yeah.
with a beak. So anyway, you know,
That's,
that was probably the most famous sea monster report from Florida.
And you'd think he wouldn't lie if, since he lost friends.
Well, we know that part of the story really happened. The
That they did die, yeah.
The debate since he wrote his article about the sea monster is that he's the only survivor to verify that story.
Yeah.
And when the incident initially happened, that part of the story didn't make the newspapers. McCleary himself said that he told the the rescue people that found him.
Mm-hmm.
He told them about it, and they told him just to don't mention it, according to him. And everything that I've been able to find out from other people that have had contact with him was that before he died, he had always had PTSD from the experience, and had had drinking problems because of it. So I tried for many years to try to broker an interview with him, but apparently he was really standoffish about talking to people about it.
Yeah.
But after he wrote the article for Fate magazine in 1965, a famous Loch Ness researcher named Tim Dinsdale was able to track him down and ask him for a sketch in 1968, and that is the origin of the drawing.
Wow.
That's in that montage that you got there posted on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, he passed away in 2016 before I had a chance to talk to him. So all we have to go on is his word. I'm inclined to believe he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
But, it all boils down to, do you believe this guy, just on his verbal testimony?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we could always, somebody could always go back and say, well, he was all stressed out. His friends were drowning. They could have seen a sea turtle or been attacked by a sea turtle or something. And he got it all mixed up in his head from the stress or misremembering things after the event. I don't know, but all I know is that none of the sea turtles that we know of have necks that long. They do have
definitely
similar-looking heads with a beak like that, but not a neck that long. So,
yeah,
it all boils down to, do you believe this guy or not? So that's what all you can do with that.
Yeah.
But moving eastward down the coast, we have another report from 1943, completely independent from his, of another long-neck monster at Fort Walton Beach, which is not far from Pensacola. Further east, the significant difference between this report and McClury's report is that this report seems to be describing an animal with hair and whiskers, not reptilian. So people have speculated, that have looked into this whole question about sea monsters, have noticed that some of the reports of long-necked monsters seem to be describing reptilian-type creatures without hair or anything like that, something more akin to a plesiosaur. However, other reports seem to be describing hairy animals with whiskers.
Yeah.
And, one of the alternate theories to identify what these long-necked sea monsters might be, other than plesiosaurs, is there's the idea there could exist a giant long-necked seal of some kind that resembles a plesiosaur, but is, the same size and has a long neck, but is a mammal, is a seal with whiskers and hair,
Yeah.
So this report from 1943, it has the long neck like the McClury report, and is in the same general neighborhood, but it's describing what sounds like a mammalian creature. Okay, let me find the file on that. Let's see.
It's very interesting, just the different descriptions of these long-necked creatures like that.
Yeah. A cryptozoologist I know named Matt Belay wrote an article about the 1943 incident. And I'm just going to quote from his article. It says, in spring 1943, radio broadcaster, naturalist, and nature writer Thomas Helm was cruising with his wife in a small sailboat off Florida's Gulf Coast. Helm had been invalided out from the Navy after being severely wounded at Pearl Harbor. What he says he saw very clearly was a beast so odd he couldn't even suggest an identity. Helm was thoroughly familiar with seals, sea lions, and mustelids like otters. Indeed, short of a degree, biological scientist, you wouldn't have a much better witness. A round head like that of a tiger without visible ears, covered in chocolate brown fur and sitting atop a 4-foot neck, appeared in the water in front of him. He had plenty of time for a good look, and altered course at one point to keep from coming too close. He originally saw it at 30 to 40 yards, but does not say what his closest approach was. Helm was insistent that it was no pinniped, seal or sea lion, among other things. It had a relatively flat face with eyes looking forward, not on the sides, and this is what reminded him of a cat.
Yeah.
So this thing had a 4-foot neck,
and
a cat-like face,
it's a long
and hair
neck.
and whiskers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this happened 19 years before the McCleary event.
And you said it was just further east?
Yeah. So this would have been off Fort Walton Beach.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the geography down there, the different places?
A little bit. My grandfather lives in Clearwater.
Well, Clearwater's way down the coast. I'm talking about up in the Panhandle.
Yeah, up in the Panhandle. I mean, I just basically know, like...
You got, like, Pensacola, and then further east of Pensacola, you've got Fort Walton, and Panama City, which is, this would be around Fort Walton. And then a little further over, you've got a place called Destin.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a couple of reports now from those places. Let me see what I got here.
So you did say that a bulk of sightings in Florida take place around that Panhandle?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
All these sightings I'm talking about right now are in the Panhandle.
From that. Yeah.
Okay, this is this is from Panama City in 1998. There's a drawing of a Loch Ness Monster type creature along with this quote. And it says, on September 23rd, 1998, Ray Angerman told me he had seen a creature that looked like this in the bay at Panama City, Florida, several years earlier. Many teens in the van with him saw it also.
Wow.
Apparently this guy is a minister that runs a Lutheran mission in Shalimar, Florida. So, there you go.
Yeah.
And now, the other one that I have really been investigating quite recently and was able to come up with an eyewitness sketch is in a dune lake near Destin, Florida, called Lake Powell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at that montage of drawings that I put together that you got there on the show, you'll see an illustration on the upper left. That is supposedly an eyewitness sketch of the Lake Powell monster.
Yeah.
Made by a guy named Edward Paget. Now, hang on. I've got an article from a newspaper from 2010 that goes into the details about the Powell Lake monster.
Is the tail there is kind of like hooked?
Yeah, it looks like it's got a plesiosaur-looking head and neck.
Yeah.
Then it's got these stumpy, manatee-looking flippers.
Yeah.
And a dorsal fin on its back, and then a long, almost shark-looking tail.
Yeah.
Now, other than the dorsal fin, it looks very much like the reports in the statue of the Altamaha in Georgia.
Yeah.
The river monster in Georgia. So, you know, that's interesting. Other than the dorsal fin, it looks pretty much well like reports of the Altamaha. And unfortunately, that fiasco that happened at St. Simon's Island recently, which I pretty much well decided was a hoax, and I think there's so many red flags about it being a hoax.
No body and everything like that.
Well, the guy that initially found it only shot it from one angle.
Yeah.
Okay, so what could have happened to it? It could have got washed out by the tide. How hard would it have been to have walked over, grabbed that thing by the tail, and drug it further up on the beach? Because the tide would drag it out,
Especially if you thought you found a plesiosaur type creature.
I mean, come on, anybody would have enough sense to go get a garbage bag. It wasn't that big.
Yeah.
And throw it in a garbage bag and hang on to it. And I can't believe that if the wildlife people really went out looking for it, they couldn't have found it with a diver.
Yeah.
In a short amount of time after the guy found it, it was sitting there on the beach. Should have been able to find something.
Definitely.
And it's only shot from